Welcome to Just Minding My Business Radio, where we are moving at the speed of God, learning what we didn't know we didn't know. I'm your host, Ida Crawford, so grab a pen and paper and get ready for information that you can use.
Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC. Broaden the scope of exposure for your business by going beyond the interview. Learn more at www.jmmbmediallc.com or email us at jmmbradio@gmail.com. It is never about who is right or wrong. It is about what is best. Steve Backley, the champion in all of us, 12 Rules for Success. Our guest today is Justin Janowski, who has helped hundreds of coaches build their dream businesses from the ground up. Driven by his faith, he founded Faith to Influence to help people learn what it takes to turn coaching into a profitable business venture. Justin has guided Christian and non-Christian coaches alike through the rewarding process of optimizing business models, pricing, and sales strategies so that they can scale their income alongside their impact. He has a passion for sharing this process with emerging entrepreneurs to help them simplify and grow their business the right way. Welcome, Justin.
Thank you for having me. That's okay. That happens a lot.
Welcome, Justin. Yes, let's just jump right in because we know entrepreneurs out there are struggling to become profitable in their business. And I mean, we try so many different things, and then if you're a solo entrepreneur, it's just overwhelming. So let's jump right in.
Yeah, sounds great.
So where do we begin?
Would you like me to share first?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'll give this feedback. If you're speaking to solopreneurs and entrepreneurs, so often when we start businesses, what a lot of people are struggling with is how to prioritize their time and where to spend their time. And so many new coaches, entrepreneurs, especially online entrepreneurs, they really struggle with sales avoidance. They focus a lot of their time on activities that make them feel busy and make them feel like they're making progress, like developing a website or developing a podcast or writing a few pages for their book or working on mastering like online funnels, or maybe they're developing their TikTok page or they're leading a conversation on Clubhouse or whatever it might be. There's so many things we can do to feel like we're busy and feel like we're making progress. And many of those things are really good, but they fall into the category of what I would call long game activities. The podcast, the book, the email list, these things will produce sales over many years and decades, but they're oftentimes not going to produce sales this week and this month. What is going to produce sales and help us grow our revenue and our businesses this week and this month is what I would call the short game. And those are the kinds of activities that new entrepreneurs, especially solopreneurs, need to be focused on. Is sales-focused activities that are going to help them grow their business and serve their ideal client.
Okay. So sales focus. And this is so timely right now because you're right. A lot of activity goes into non-producing money things.
Mm-hmm.
We spend a lot of time on that. So in terms of sales, what is the strategy to really get focused in that area?
Yeah, there's a few things that I think are really important around sales, but I think it starts with our mindset. It starts with what's going on in our own minds and our own hearts and how we feel. And there's three kind of internal mindset pieces that I talk to people about regarding sales. And one is what is our identity. It's who we believe ourselves to be. I work with a lot of coaches, and if we believe that we're a great coach, if we believe that we're a great leader, if we believe that we're a good salesperson and that's a good thing, we're going to get better results on sales calls. We're going to be more effective as a coach. We're going to be more impactful as a speaker if we believe good things about ourselves. And if somebody listening is like, oh yeah, that's me, I've got really positive self-talk and a great identity, they're ahead of the game. But for so many people, a lot of us are beating ourselves up internally, and we've got a negative self-talk, and we don't believe in ourselves all the time. We experience a lot of self-doubt. And if we're stuck there and we come into a sales call or a coaching call or a speaking opportunity with self-doubt and fear and anxiety and wondering whether or not we're good enough, we're going to have a hard time helping the other person feel really confident in hiring us or taking the next step because we're not really confident. And, for me, I don't believe that we need to have perfect identity, perfect confidence. I believe that we just need like a mustard seed of faith, a belief that we can do it as a first step. And, that can be developed through positive I am statements, writing down nice things and reading them out loud. Like, I am a great coach. I am a great leader. I am a generous person. I am good enough, etc. It can be developed through connecting with people who speak life into us, who encourage us, surrounding ourselves with good people who believe in who we are and reflect that to us again and again. And the third way for me is prayer, just like bringing it to God and saying like, hey, God, help me develop my identity. Help me work on this. And once we've got that part right, then it's about how are we feeling in any given moment? What's our emotional state before that particular sales call or that particular speaking opportunity? And we can drive that up by having a pre-call ritual that gets us feeling good, a song that we like to play, or some deep breaths, or some movement, or some meditation, or some prayer, or whatever it might be, that we can do right before a sales opportunity to feel better. And then the third thing to check on is our stories, not just about our own identity, but about sales in general. A lot of people have old stories like sales is pushy, or sales is greedy, or sales is annoying, or sales is manipulation, or whatever it might be. And if we've got old stories about sales being bad, we're not going to want to engage in sales because we're not bad. And so if we have that awareness, we might need to rewrite the old story and recognize that even if sales has been pushy in other people's hands, or if it's been annoying, or if it's been greedy, or if it's been deceitful in other people's hands, it's not that way with us. Sales with Ida is something completely different. Sales with Ruth is something completely different. Sales with me is leadership. Sales with me feels like coaching. Sales with me feels like an invitation. Sales, I believe, when done right, is simply making it as easy as possible for the right people to say yes. And it's a good thing. And because I believe sales is good, I don't have any resistance to selling.
I like that approach.
Thank you.
I like that approach.
Mm.
Wow, that's very so self-confidence, your story around sales is two factors that can make a total difference in getting that sale. So your story around sales, like you said, it's been a struggle for a lot of people. How can we get rid of that mindset that's not serving us around sales?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And the first step is having an awareness of the old story. I think some of us are trying to convince ourselves that we don't have this negative story. We're just trying to pretend it's not there and push through the resistance. And so if somebody's listening, my invitation to you would be grab your pen and write down like, what is the disempowering negative story you have about sales? Write that down. Like, take it from your head, this big thing in your mind, and make it small on a piece of paper. Like sales, I remember my client Laura Nizer telling me that her story was sales is pushy. And so I had her write that down on a piece of paper. And then I asked her a few questions, and we can do this for ourselves, or we can ask a coach or a friend to do this for us. The question was, Laura, are you pushy? And she said, no, I'm not. I said, if I put you on a sales call, would you all of a sudden be pushy? She said, no, I can't do it. That's why I'm not good at sales. I said, okay, if you're not going to be pushy on that sales call, how would you be? And she said, well, I would serve. I would aim to serve the other person. I said, okay, so sales with you, is sales with you pushy? She said, no, I guess not. I said, what is sales with you, Laura? She said, sales with me is service. And so I had her cross that first sentence out. Sales is pushy. Just draw a line straight through it, write in big capital letters next to it, not true. And then right underneath, sales with me is service, the new empowering truth. And so if we have awareness of the old story, we're willing to cross it out and write a true, more empowering story, because a lot of these old stories aren't based in truth or they're a generalization that doesn't make sense for us. And so if we can get awareness of it, cross it out, say it's not true, and write the truth, we might need to remind ourselves of that new truth again and again by reading it aloud or writing it or posting it by us where we can see it. But that can help us rewrite the story and change the soundtrack, as John Acuff would say.
Yes. And these are simple things that you can do. You know, none of it sounds hard.
Right.
So why are people struggling?
But I think that's a really good question. You know, why do people struggle so hard when it comes to sales? Because many people will tell you, I'm not a salesperson. I don't do sales. And like you said, when you bring up the topic of sales, there's a resistance that develops. So what is that really about? What is that resistance really about?
Yeah, well, I think a big part of it is people are afraid of what other people will think.
Okay.
And the easiest way to grow our business is to connect with people we know and have conversations. And ultimately, the only way to make sales and grow our business is to have conversations with real people and invite them to buy something. But I think people are afraid that if we are seen as a salesperson, people won't like us. Or if we get on a conversation, ask somebody to buy, that they'll be offended or upset, or we'll feel rejected, or we'll feel judged, or something along those lines, something that feels just painful. And we don't want that. We want easy. We want less resistance. You know, human nature, I think, is to be comfortable and to keep things as easy as possible. We don't want to be challenged. We don't want it to be hard. And I think that if we begin to recognize that even that's not true, it's not true that somebody saying no to buying our product or service is a rejection. We have to recognize where our responsibility begins and ends. Our responsibility is to have good conversations, ask good questions, and invite people to buy. Their responsibility is to make the best decision for themselves. Now, we might help them in that, but if we choose to love and respect somebody, whether they say yes or no, they'll love and respect us, whether they say yes or no.
That's really important. That's really important.
Yes, yes. So yeah, that rejection is the hard piece with most people.
Yeah.
Because they want to get a yes, but it's not, and then they take it personally when it's not about you at all. You know, it could be bad timing. The person might have other responsibilities that they can't add any more onto their plate. It could be a number of reasons that has nothing to do with you, for sure. And I mean, the way you put it is just so easy and flowing, and oh, I can do that. Okay.
I'm still stuck in. It's different. It's different for different people. I have done sales before and loved it. And that was years ago. And that's not so true. I've had a couple of jobs in sales and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed not only the work, because it was all retail. It was hands-on retail. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed working with the public. I enjoyed everything that involved sales. But then you come into another avenue of selling, and sometimes you just don't have that feeling. And I think that's what sometimes people just don't feel it. They just don't feel it. And I think that's where some people get stuck as well. You know, they think, oh, I've enjoyed sales. And then they get into a position of sales and it's like, yeah, this is not working for me.
Yeah.
So what is the difference? What are the differences in sales?
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most important things is to make sure that we're selling things that we believe in. If we're selling a product or service, we have to believe in it. We have to think it's good. We have to think it's going to be the sort of thing that could help the other person have a little bit more joy in their life, or become a little bit more of who they were meant to become, or achieve a little bit more of what they want to achieve. Like if we believe the thing that we're selling is good, then it's going to be easier for us to feel good about selling it. If we think that, you know, if we're kind of like, oh man, I need a job, what can I do? And there's this thing that we can sell, but we don't believe in it, we're not going to feel so good about reaching out to people and having those conversations. And so we have to feel like it's something that's good that we're selling. We have to be able to sell it in a high integrity way that feels honest and fair to both sides of the conversation. And ultimately, like what happens for some people is if they've sold products for other people or for other companies as a job, some people find that to be easier than now you're a solopreneur, you're selling like a coaching service or something else, and you feel like you're selling yourself. And that feels difficult for a lot of people. That's like a different whole different edge. So for me, when I'm talking with like online coaches, business coaches, life coaches, marriage coaches, etc., some of them have a harder time selling themselves. And it comes back to that identity piece where they just need to get comfortable and confident about who they are and what they bring to the table, and that they are valuable, and that they can do this.
Mm. So if people want to work with you, how do they do so?
Well, an easy thing that people can do for free is download our coaches playbook, which is like all of our art of influence, mindset, sales stuff in a PDF form, along with our 10-step sales process for direct sales reps, coaches, and entrepreneurs. You can get that at www.goodsalespdf.com. goodsalespdf.com. That will get you not only the coach's playbook in a digital form, but it'll get you on our email list where we'll email you our sales strategies for Christian Coaches podcast and other things that we're doing. I think it's a really good first step. If somebody's interested beyond that, I mean, feel free to look me up on Facebook. Just send me a direct message. I'm easy enough to get in touch with and contact directly. And if somebody wants to have a conversation, come find me.
Okay. Okay. Wow. So faith to influences. Okay. A lot of how did you come up with that?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was working for another coaching business. It wasn't faith-based or Christian, like what I'm doing right now. It was just coaching for entrepreneurs and salespeople. And I was the lead salesperson on our startup team. And I had this vision for doing that work, but doing it specifically for Christians and bringing God and my faith into it. It felt like that would be really complete for me. And I remember it was 8 months before I left that job and started my business that I wrote my first business plan. And I was like, this is what I would do. And I was thinking about names. And actually, I found like an old picture or an old I took a picture of the sheet of paper I was scribbling names on, and I was checking them out on godaddy.com, where you can find out if a domain is available, if you can make it your website. And I was writing on a bunch of different names. I had like Faith for Influence, I had Faith for Impact with the number 4 and stuff like that. Those were a couple of the first ones. I just like kept writing down the list, and like a lot of these domains were taken, and somehow I ended up at Faith to Influence. The idea was bringing faith into influence, which to me is leadership, sales, business, communication, relationships. So much of that deals in influence. And I wanted to tie faith to that. And it ended up being that faith to influence was available. And then I had somebody who was supporting my business at the beginning, and he had a connection who could do logos, and they created this cool logo for us that I really love. And the rest is history, I guess.
Yes, yes. And how important, I already know, but I'm just asking for the benefit of our audience. How important is faith in your business?
It's really important. I have no doubt that, like, my success, God has really provided to me. I remember my first year in business. I started December 2018. And so really 2019 was my first year in business, and I quit my job to start this business. And I felt really scared those first few months. I was married. My wife and I had just had our first baby, and she was staying at home with the baby. And so it was kind of a crazy time to quit my job and start this business, but I felt like God was calling for it. And I remember just like tossing and turning and feeling anxiety and wondering if I wasn't good enough and struggling with this identity piece a little bit, but also feeling very excited those first few months. And having this like need to let go and surrender and trust God. And I was just hoping, man, if I could do like 50 or 60 grand in my first year, like we could make it as a family, we would be okay. And my business did over 250 grand in revenue my first year, which way beyond what I could have imagined. God had a really big plan for this. And like, he's just opened door after door after door, provided. We've always generously tithed. I really believe in that, and giving back to the church and to people in need, and supporting the community, and that God will repay us in that as well. But I definitely know that God has provided for me far beyond what I deserve, and he continues to open doors. And so I'm just so grateful for him. Our content is just as good for non-Christians as it is for Christians, really. Like when I teach the sales process, it's just a good sales process that has high integrity. But I love being a Christian-based business so we can pray, we can invite God into the space to connect with our clients and solve problems that are bigger than what we can solve on our own.
Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. Because wow, it's funny you say that. I watch every morning I watch I can't even call a name right now, but it's a Christian program that comes on TV, and basically it's stories of people that are either going through a medical situation or drug addiction,
Mhm.
or whatever it is, and how God brought them through.
Mm.
And a lot of times they weren't even thinking about God beforehand,
Yeah.
and something happened that brought them to God. And how this particular organization, the tithing, how they take that money and they help people with, operations that they
Mhm.
couldn't afford, and different things like that. So tithing uh, is a very important aspect,
Yeah.
and God expects that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting you mentioned like these people weren't even thinking about God. And how often are we in that position where we're not even thinking about God, but he's always thinking about us? He's
Yes.
always there for us in the absence of our thought. My sister passed away a couple of years ago. She was 42 from cancer, and it's just like heartbreaking. And really the first time in my life I went through like deep, deep grief. And I wrestled with God through that. And one of the things that I learned that I thought was really valuable is like wrestling with God is a good thing. Like we have to be close to wrestle.
Mhm.
And I also learned that like, key characters in the Bible, had moments of doubt or moments where they withdrew from God, but God was always there chasing after them and calling them back to him. And so what's really cool is regardless of where someone is in their faith journey, it's normal for us to be inconsistent. God is always consistent with us,
Mhm.
and that's a really special relationship to be in. It's hard to find that at a human level, but we can find it in him.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. I am so grateful that God brought you into our space today,
Mm,
because people need to hear this. They
yeah,
really need to. And they need to understand that they are the vessel, period.
yeah,
And nothing works without God.
yeah,
Nothing. And I'm sticking to it because I've all seen that in evidence in my own life, where as soon as I let it go and give it to God, it's a totally different outcome every time.
amen, amen. We got to
Every time.
surrender, give it to him.
The minute I try to control it, it's a purity mess every
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and there's the one balance I think that's important to note in that is I think sometimes people get so extreme. They're like either going to control it themselves, which doesn't work like you referenced, or they're like, I'm just going to completely let go. God's got this, but they don't take any personal responsibility. What I think we need is to surrender the outcomes to God, but faithfully take the action ourselves. And so,
Yes.
like, if we're trying to build a business, like, God's not going to make sales for us if we're not getting on sales calls. So we can
Right.
surrender to God and be like, okay, I can take the pressure off. I don't need this one sale. I don't need this one client. God's going to provide for me. I'm okay. There's no reason to stress or feel pressure getting onto the sales call, but I better book the sales call for God to do some work. I better be out in the marketplace taking real action. And so it needs to be kind of almost a partnership in that. Is like God will
Yes.
produce and God will open doors and God will surprise us and bless us. And we need to be in action for him
Yes.
to
I
be able to
always
do
call
that
it
for us.
give God something to work with. Give
Yes,
him something
Ruth,
to work with.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes. Wow. This has been a great, great, great. Wow. I'm just moved right now
Oh,
because I didn't see this coming. So thank you, Justin, for bringing this. And it's definitely timely. So again, how do people connect with you?
Yeah, so my name is Justin Janowski, Janowski. You can, like, if you really want to talk to me, send me a Facebook message, or you can send me an email, justin@faith2influence.com. I mean, I'm running a successful business, but I'm not like a celebrity or something. Like, you can get in touch with me pretty easily. And then the other thing that I want to give to all the listeners is a free gift, which is www.goodsalespdf.com. That's going to give you like the bulk of our sales content in a written form. It's free. You'll get on our email list. We'll share our podcast for sales strategies for Christian coaches, among other things. And if you're not a coach or you're not faith backed in your business, the sales content there is still just really strong, really valuable. So that's goodsalespdf.com.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'm definitely going to run over there when we're done and get my copy. And I hope that our listeners and viewers do the same, because you need help beyond you. And the only thing I know that's going to really push you through is God.
Yeah.
If you ask.
Yeah.
And you do the work.
Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Justin. Thank you for your wisdom and all that you do to support people in a faithful manner in their business. So
it's my
we're
pleasure.
looking forward to having more collaborations with you going forward. All I can say is thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to Just Minding My Business Radio. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. We hope you enjoyed the show and appreciate you stopping by. Many blessings to you and yours.